Welcome to Small Business, Big Network, the podcast for small business owners who want big results from their networking. I'm Liz Drury, a freelance voiceover artist who knows that if you're not working, then networking could help. Sarah Wayte is a copywriter, creative writer and photographer. When she moved abroad, she turned to networking to help build her business. Thank you very much for being my guest on the podcast today, Sarah.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Now, you've got a few strings to your bow as a copywriter, a photographer and more, which we'll dig into in a minute. But I know you've not always had a creative career. What did you do in a previous life?
Oh, my goodness. I accidentally became a paramedic. That's what I generally tell people.
How do you do that accidentally?
It was, I'll try and cut the story very short, but I lived abroad. I grew up in Malta when I was a teenager, and I hated living out there. I wanted to move back to the UK. So I moved back to the UK and I had to find any job possible. I was temping, I was doing all kinds of work to try and stay in England. And I saw an ad in the paper for a call handler for the emergency services, like the 999 call handler. I thought that sounds interesting. I'll do that until I figure out what I want to do with my life. And that became a 20-year career, which I sort of progressed through being a dispatcher. And then I moved on to being a paramedic after 8 years. And I did 12 years of being a paramedic.
But had you always been creative, though?
Yes, always. I always say to people, I started out I was a writer. That's what I've always been my entire life. So I used to write terrible poetry and short stories when I was young. And then I joined the ambulance service and I stopped writing. It just kind of knocked all of the creativity out of me. But as I was going through my paramedic training, I'd started doing photography because I still needed a creative outlet. And that led to, again, accidentally becoming a wedding photographer. I ended up shooting two paramedics were getting married and they had no money for photography. So they asked me to do it and I fell in love with it immediately. And that kind of brought me back around to writing again because I had to write my website and like social media copy and emails and all of that kind of stuff, blogging. And I remembered that I love to write. So it brought me back full circle. It took me a while, but I got there. It all kind of came back to the writing again.
Yeah. So were you doing those things at the same time then? Still working as a paramedic, but doing the photography and the writing at the same time?
I was, yes. I was fortunate in that I'd been doing the paramedic stuff long enough that I was able to ask to go part-time when I felt ready. So I was doing that like a couple of days a week and then I was running my business the rest of the time. And also then at the same time, I decided to sign up to do a creative writing degree through the Open University as well, just to kind of, make it more interesting. I have since discovered that I'm neurodivergent, so it makes a lot of sense as to why I needed to do all of these things all at the same time. But yeah, I did it all at the same time.
So what made you finally decide to call being a paramedic a day?
Well, we decided to move to Canada, my husband and and I initially thought about coming over here as a paramedic because it would be much easier to get visas and I realised that no, I didn't want to do that. I became a paramedic accidentally. It was never a vocation for me, like it is for a lot of other people. So I wasn't enjoying it. I hadn't enjoyed it for a number of years, and I was looking for a way to get out. And moving overseas seemed like a good way to do that. While my husband continued being a paramedic here, I decided to drop it and set my business up and go full time with the business.
Yeah. So why Canada and when did you move there?
We moved here in 2019. We made the decision in 2016. I can tell, was it 2016? 2016, I think it was. In fact, it was the day after the Brexit referendum is when we decided. Yes, that was, I cried
2016,
and I said rude words. Yes, it was 2016. And I said, let's move to Canada. So we moved here in 2019. And what was the rest of that question? I've completely forgotten.
Yeah, what was it took you there and when? So you've answered both parts of those.
Oh, there you go.
that question. So, and how did you find making that move?
It was, I'd obviously lived overseas before. I kind of knew a little bit what to expect. I knew about, the pressures of getting to, build another support network again in a new place. The idea of that everyone you know and love is a very long way
Yeah.
away. All of that was not unfamiliar to me. So I did okay. And actually, my husband did pretty well too, because he went straight into employment here. So he built those systems very
Yeah.
quickly. Where he was working, so yeah, we settled in. We gave ourselves 2 years to make the decision. We kind of thought we'll go there, see how things work out. Within about a month, we knew we were never going back. We were just, and it's been 7 years now. So
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about your business now. What do you do?
well, so I these days I call myself a copywriter, a creative writer, and a brand photographer. So I have lots of different areas, but what ties it all in together is the fact that I help people with their stories. So whether that's their business story, working on their website copy for them, or doing other words for their business, whether it's their brand photography, headshots and actual like full brand photography sessions that I help them do. And then also I've started moving into working with authors and supporting them through actually getting their stories out into the world as well. So yes, that's what I do these days.
Yeah. And is there a part of your business that you like the best?
I think it's definitely the creative writing side more than anything, because I feel like I've come back full circle. It's a reminder that that's what I always wanted to be first and foremost, was a writer. But I still love that I've got the copywriting and the brand photography kind of support that really well.
Yeah. So who is it that you help? I mean, you mentioned authors there, but I know that's not the only kind of business that you work with.
No, typically I mostly work with a lot of creative businesses, much like myself. I work with like web designers and graphic designers and photographers, a lot of photographers actually. And also just personal brands is a thing I've really leaned into. I really like I like working with the human behind the business, usually like a solo business person, or a very small businesses, just because I really like that human element. That's the side I really like the most.
Yeah. And are they from any particular sector, or do you work with anybody?
Pretty much anybody. I'm not so great with things like that are very technical. I tend to stay away from things like, finance and things that I don't understand all that well. But generally, I've worked with everyone. I think the common thing that ties in everyone I've worked with is that they want their words to sound, and their business to come across as very human and with lots of personality. So anyone that wants that, I'm there. I can work with those people.
Yeah. No, you just mentioned human there, so I think we have to mention the dreaded AI. How is that
Yes.
affecting you?
It's definitely having an impact, I would say. It's one of these things. I waver back and forth really heavily with it at the moment. There are things about it that I appreciate and have used in my own business to some degree, but there's also a really sort of strong element of I can see it everywhere now. When I'm looking at people's, social media posts is a really common one. I can just see that I can see the AI. It's very strong, because a lot of people are just kind of using it and not not editing it, not reading it back and thinking, is this what, does this
Yeah.
sound like me? They're just kind of using it as a copy and paste, and I think that's where it really falls down, because it
Yeah.
does just make everybody sound the same, and that makes me very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So where are your clients? Do you still work with people back in the UK, or your clients on the other side of the Atlantic now?
Luckily, because the brand photography is very localized. I
Yes.
tend to work with people here in Canada for that. Although sometimes I have done the occasional shoot when I've travelled back to the UK and even to Malta as well, because I've got a European passport, so I'm allowed to work over there too, which is helpful. But mostly the photography is for Canada, but everything else is pretty much anyone anywhere. I tend to work mostly with English speaking areas, but I've
Yeah.
got clients in Australia, New Zealand, the US, Canada, the UK. I've had a few clients in different parts of Europe as well. I've done a lot of work with clients in places like Croatia, who they're like wedding industry, and they are trying to appeal to people in the US and North America. So they want someone who's English speaking to write for them. So yeah, it's a really broad global thing that I'm able to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So what typically do people need the most help with?
It's generally website copy is the first thing people come to me for, mostly because they've been running their business a couple of years. They know now what their business is about and what they're offering, and what they have doesn't reflect that. They know they want something that looks more professional, is actually going to work better for them. And so, yeah, that's generally the first instance that people come to me for.
Yeah. And what kind of results do people get having worked with you? What difference is it making to them?
Oh, that's generally it's they're getting the kinds of clients that they really want to work with. That seems to be the biggest switch. They're not just getting inquiries from tire kickers and anybody who who's looking for someone like them, but they're generally ending up working with people that they absolutely love, and it makes them more confident in their business as well. The amount of people, once they've got their copy, things like their social media increases, and they put more visibility out there because they're really happy and excited to show what it is they do to everybody.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about your creative writing. Have you been published?
Sadly, not yet. I'm working on it. I'm currently. Well, I mean, I say not been published. I've had like little articles and things, but mostly I'm writing a novel at the moment, and in fact, I'm just coming up to the point of finishing my last round of edits, and I'm hoping to start querying agents later on this year, which I'm very excited about. And other than that, I write a lot of creative non-fiction as well. I like to write about my experiences as a paramedic, as a migrant, as a neurodivergent perimenopausal woman, and all those things. So yes, it's a bit chaotic, but there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. So tell me a bit more about the marketing that you do for other authors.
So this is quite a new thing, but what I've discovered is authors are the fantastic writers, but marketing is not something that comes naturally to them. So I'm trying to help them do things like figuring out putting themselves out there in a like making themselves visible in whether it's with social media or other capacities, writing for their, effectively trying to help them realize that what they have is a business and a brand. So it is offering them to how to best write their website. The amount of author websites I see that could be structured in such a different way that would actually make more sense as a business. It's quite a new area that I'm moving into, and I'm still trying to sort of find the words and ways to describe it so that people understand, because definitely it's not something that many people are doing, I think, at the moment.
No.
So.
No, quite a niche.
Yes.
I know you also have a podcast, don't you? Tell us about your podcast.
Well, I mean, I'm not to show off, but I have two, effectively.
Two, right.
I co-host a podcast with my friend, which is all about creativity. It's called Creative Reboot, and we talk all about like side hustles and full-time creative jobs, and just generally anything that relates to creativity. It all kind of comes back round to that conversation. And then I have my own much smaller podcast. It's just like a little 10-minute thing that I put out every couple of weeks, and it's called Loud Words for Quiet Rebels, where I kind of talk about ways in which to put yourself out into the world when you are a massive introvert like myself.
So let's go on to the networking side of things now. Well, how easy was it to build a client base from scratch in Canada?
I certainly wouldn't say it was easy. There was definitely a lot of effort involved. I knew I was going to have to put the work in when I moved here. And immediately my first thought was I need to get out and start networking effectively. I was quite lucky in that I was doing... So when I first moved to Canada, initially I had planned just to be a wedding and portrait photographer and do a little bit of copywriting. So I really needed to... I needed to put myself out there because that is a very local kind of business. It actually ended up changing around pre-pandemic, but for the best really, in that I ended up becoming more of a copywriter, so I could still take clients back in the UK, which is what generally happened initially. But yeah, I knew coming here I had to really get on to the whole networking thing, which I've discovered it felt quite different here in Canada as well to what I'd experienced in the UK with networking. Definitely much more structured, and I mean the networking, I'm sure there are structured networking events in the UK, but all the ones that I'd been to had been very sort of let's go and sit and have lunch and chat. And,
Yeah.
it was all very much getting to know people. Whereas the first sort of networking events I went to here in Canada, it was very much stand up and give your elevator pitch to the room, and handing out business cards and all of that kind of stuff, which felt really strange to me, and I didn't enjoy it at all. So, yeah, so that was my first kind of thing. Was I knew I had to get out there and get people to know who I was. That was the first thing.
Yeah. No, you mentioned a little while ago that you're an introvert. How do you
I
find
am.
networking as an introvert?
Oh, it's exhausting. It is very, very tiring. I mean, not that I don't enjoy doing it. As long as I can find networking that feels very much like it works for me, like where there are much more, where it's more conversation based, and not trying to. I use the word peacock, but walking around the room telling everybody who you are, giving everybody your 30-second pitch and here's my card and turning around and walking off. I'm not very good at that at all. But I will have conversations with people. I love talking to people one on one. I love it when we have like deep conversations. We're not just talking surface stuff. We go straight into the really good stuff. And yeah, so it's hard work, and I do have to come home and lay down afterwards because I need to recharge. But I've learned now, and it's not quite as bad now. When I first started doing it, recharging would take 2 or 3 days after one networking event, whereas now it's like maybe a couple of hours and then I'm good to go again. So
So, have you got any tips for other people who might be introverts? How to make it easier for yourself?
Oh, absolutely. So the things that I have learned to do are, if it's so one of the things actually recently is I was invited to a networking event, and they immediately invited me into a chat forum on Instagram, I think it was. So my first thing was to introduce myself on there, and I was really clear in saying like who I am, what I do, the kinds of people I would love to chat with. I then also just came out and said, I'm a huge introvert. The chances are I'm not going to come up and talk to you because I struggle with that. But if you see a purple haired lady standing by herself in the corner, come and say hi. And it worked. It was
Yeah.
really useful, actually. So doing that was really useful. The other thing I also do for networking events is I wear my personality. So I do have purple hair. I do tend to wear bright colours and quite unique dresses and outfits and things. I also try and take a leaf out of my friend's book. She goes to networking events with things like she wears like a unicorn horn on her head, and something that's really very on brand for her. And it what it does is it encourages people to come and talk to you. There's something about dressing that way that makes people kind of gravitate towards
Yeah.
you. The kinds of people who want to be around someone like that will come
Yeah.
and gravitate towards you and talk to you, which is much easier than you having to go and talk to them. So
Yeah. Definitely. So, what do you find comes from networking?
for me, generally, it is relationships. Actually getting to know some. I've got to know some really awesome business owners through networking events that we're still business friends to this day. We do a lot of things like co-working and supporting each other, lots of accountability check-ins, that kind of thing. So just like the general day-to-day of having some friends to talk to about things that only they would understand really is so useful. From that, sometimes referrals do come, which is pretty awesome. In fact, most of my business is generally word of mouth, and that is because of the friendships that I've made through places like networking. So yeah, I wouldn't say I've ever had any direct clients come through networking, but that works for me. I much prefer what this does instead.
Yeah. Yeah. So, is all your networking done in person, or and if you do any online, do you network back in the UK still?
So I do a mix of online and in person. Where I am in Canada is I'm actually quite a long way out of the main city, outside of Vancouver. So there's not a huge amount of scope for in-person networking unless I drive all the way into the city, which basically then makes it a full day. So
Yeah.
I'm really selective about which in-person events I go to. So I do a lot of online networking. I have done some UK networking. It does very much depend on timing because, of
Yeah.
time zones, obviously. So it's usually my very early in the morning when I'm probably not at my best, but I try. So yeah, I have done events online, and I'm always open to hearing about others as well. If I hear about them, I will absolutely try and jump in and see what it's like.
Yeah. So what's next for your business then, Sarah?
Oh, now that's a question. At the moment, I am just kind of really wanting to build the creative writing side of things. I'm doing some training at the moment. I'm hopefully training up to be an editor. I want to be able to offer editing services eventually. And yeah, just kind of doing what I'm doing. It's more very much about, I want to find my people. That's the people that I really love to work with. I want to help support businesses be themselves and actually really showcase their humanity, especially now. I feel like
Yeah.
it's really important. So that's kind of where I'm going at the moment.
Yeah. And so if people want to find you, Sarah, and find out more about your services, what is the best place for them to get hold of you?
Always on my website, which is sarahwayte.com. It's a funny spelling, SARAHWAYTE.com. And everything is on there. But also you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, and I will always connect with people that want to connect with me on there. And I think those are the main places.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for being my guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Thanks for listening to Small Business, Big Network. If you found this podcast useful, please do rate, review and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with the rest of your network too.